So today, Glenn is with us and he's from Melbourne, Australia. So Glenn's actually a time management expert who helps individuals and teams to save time and get results by working effectively from anywhere. So Glenn has over 30 experience, is that right? In consulting, leadership roles, sales, etc. And today we're going to have some chats about how he can help us plan for success.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eloise. And I'm starting to show my age there, but yes, I've been around for a little bit, seen a lot of people work, helped a lot of people work, and that's what I love to do in day out.
Excellent. Well, that's what we love to do too. So I think that makes us a great fit for having a chat today. So maybe you could just start us off. Obviously, understand how you sort of got into the whole productivity coaching, etc. As you went from being a high achiever to experiencing a patch of burnout, and then obviously it led you to this. So perhaps you could share a little bit with us about your story and how this all came about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually spent 20 years in the IT sector. So joined an IT consulting firm as like a junior cadet. Now I had roles previous to that. So the Spirax notebooks, the spiral bound notebooks, I was a production controller there. So I'm a production planner, came through the industrial sector, got my experiences. So I got into IT consulting. And as I said, I was there for 20 years, started as a junior cadet, worked my way up through the ranks. Now, working for US companies or subsidiaries of US companies, return to shareholder, return to stakeholder was number one, number two on the priority list. So quarterly targets, high levels of utilization, those types of things, very driven and having compensation plans driven around that. And that suited me down to a T. So I would blow my targets out of the water and get compensated for that, achieve President's Club status. So that was sort of the high achiever club status. And up until just before I was about 40, and I didn't have an issue becoming 40, but I'd worked my way up where from the junior cadet to actually looking after Southeast Asia for a business unit. And my wife would tell me that I couldn't keep it up because I'd work 60 to 80 hours a week, travel 2 out of every 3 weeks. And that was some great advice, but I ignored that completely. I ignored it because I was enjoying what I was doing. I was driving results, and I was on a very good salary. And in 2006, that came all crashing down for me when I burnt out. And I burnt out to the extent I was unable to work for 15 months. So the irony out of all of this is that whilst I was a high achiever, I used to be a high achiever through working hard, rather than a high achiever through working smarter. And when I got better and I wanted to come back to work, I didn't want to go and do what I was doing. I actually had this sort of grand idea that why don't I go and help people based on some of my experiences? Because we got to be scalable and sustainable with how we work.
Tell us then, so with that, how would you say that you reach a sense of achievement every day?
Yeah, I'm a planner. So, and I think we've got to get really realistic with what we plan for, because some people will run off a to-do list and the to-do list will often turn into the wish list and it's completely and utterly unachievable. So on a daily basis, I get very specific with what I'm going to achieve and when I'm going to do it. So I bring in the power of when to a to-do list. And I do that just by updating my calendar. So my calendar is my one-stop shop. It's got the meetings I need to attend. It's got when I'm coaching people or running training programs, but it's also got the work that I need to do myself. Now, part of my role is in my job, 20% of my time I've got to react to things. And if I don't react to them, then it generally means lost business for me. Yeah. So whilst I'll get proactive and slot out specific things I'm going to do through the day, you'll also see some gaps in my day to allow for the reactive time. So plan for the proactive and allow for the reactive.
Excellent. That's really good. And what you said about the wish lists, it's interesting. I saw a post of yours on LinkedIn about that actually a couple of weeks or months back, and I realized that that's something I was really struggling with. I was like, just never achieved. I just was at the end of the day, I was like, I'm just still got so much to do. I should be working till midnight. And then since then, I actually implemented one of your little techniques, and I've been cutting my to-do list, but get my EA to help me cut it right back to like 4 things in a day.
Awesome.
And suddenly it's so weird. I'm probably doing less. I don't know, but somehow I feel like I'm actually getting through the work and in control. So it's cool what you said there.
Yeah, can I just add, one of the biggest things that I find with workers, what we struggle with is clarity, because we get so busy, we're pulled in so many different directions, and when we're able to narrow the focus and get more clarity, we actually get more done, but feel like we're not working as hard. It's absolutely incredible because we're reducing the level of overwhelm.
Yeah, that's awesome. So true. So true. So obviously then you are a big believer in calendar. So my next question is going to be, what do you recommend is the best planning method for success on the day-to-day, weekly, monthly? So obviously use your calendar. Do you do time blocking? What's your suggestions?
Yeah. So I think there's a multitude of different ways of doing it. So there's not necessarily a way that's better than the other. There's a way that works best for you. And I think that's a really important thing. You've got to understand what you need to be able to be the best version of yourself. So I will use throughout a day, I'll use time boxing. If you look at my calendar going forward, you'll see there's slots in my calendar where I've got programs planned, initiatives planned, meetings planned, things I need to do myself. However, if you think about it, anyone who gets emails, and I use the 2-minute rule. So I'll either do something as soon as I get it, if it's less than 2 minutes, or let's say it's a 2-hour piece of work, it's due next Friday, I'll then decide when I'm going to do that piece of work. But it's still quite a short term and quite a reactive way. So each week, I then also have a weekly plan. So I think of my Outlook calendar. So I use Outlook. I think of my Outlook calendar as a schedule because it's very specific, what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do. Then I have a plan that sits over the top of that each week, and I use a constraint-based planning method. And the constraint-based planning method says, well, okay, what's my capacity next week? How many hours do I want to work? That's my starting point.
Yeah.
And then let's subtract out of that, what have I already committed that what I'm going to do? So I have a look at my calendar and add up all those hours. Then I subtract out of that, how much time do I need to be reactive for? So these things that I can't anticipate when they're going to happen, but rule of thumb, I know something's going to happen along there. And that'll give me some available hours. And then I say, okay, so what am I going to do in those available hours? So I almost think of it like this, is that if you're walking along on a hot summer day, let's say it's a 35 degrees Celsius day, you're in the country, there's no respite from the sun whatsoever, and then you see a gum tree. So you see this shady gum tree. So you walk up to the shady gum tree, you sit down and you reflect. You start reflecting. And if you've ever done this, the world will literally stop for you and you're reflecting. You have ideas pop into your mind. We need to do this on a weekly basis. So that's my constraint-based planning method. And then whatever answer I come up with that, I then will pop that into my calendar to lock and load the schedule for the rest of the week. So, and then on a monthly basis, I'm looking at a more of an 80,000 foot level. I'm thinking about how am I tracking on a year-to-date basis, and maybe what initiatives am I either behind, ahead, or on target with, and what's a theme that I need to lock into this month to make sure I stay on track with what I said I was going to do in my business plan.
That brings me to, and again, you're probably almost covered it. But so when so many of our clients and our team members as well, they're working with 4 or 5 clients at once, busy CEOs, things like that. And our clients also really, really busy people. So when they got, hundreds of different fighting priorities, do you have any other tips as to, how to stay more proactive rather than just getting into the reactive mindset so easily?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that what we've got to do is we've got to minimize the interruptions. So there are good interruptions and there are bad interruptions. So a good interruption is that it's a piece of business coming in, or if it's an EA, then I've got to do some work for one of the CEOs that I might be working for. So it's business related like that. Bad interruptions could be that I've got an alert going off on my phone. It's a TikTok alert, a Facebook alert, or it could even be an email alarm. So I like to turn incoming email alarms off unless you're in a completely reactive role. So sometimes EAs are in such reactive roles, they need to keep them turned on.
Yeah.
But there may be some emails you want to capture. So on Outlook, what you can do is set up rules based on exceptions. So we want to get a handle on what's on the reactivity, on the interruptions that we're getting. But also we want to get a handle on what's on the wish list, because what we react to typically is urgency. We don't
Yep.
necessarily react on what's going to have the greatest impact as such.
Mm.
So I think what we should do is we should do, if you're someone who does a spring clean of your house once a year, we should do a spring clean of our to-do list. If you think about what's everything that we've got on our to-do list, how much of it is important versus how much is a wish list?
Yeah.
And if in your show notes, I'll put a link. I've got a free program I've actually done on this. So it's a free, it's 3 steps. It goes over 16 minutes and it wraps a process around how can you whittle down all the crap that's getting your attention,
Yeah.
and so you can focus on what's important. Because when you're able to do that, we can actually get more proactive and get control of these level of interruptions going on.
And the last topic, I guess, is more around probably what specifically everybody's talking about right now is the whole remote working thing. So what do you feel, what have you found probably with yourself and with your clients are the principal challenges with trying to stay productive when you're working from home? We all know there's the dog, there's the kids, there's everything. What have you found and then have you found any really good ways to combat these?
Yeah, well, I think the whole work from home, it's graduated into a work from anywhere, and it is a big shift we're going to see. But you've got to be able to work from anywhere. Just because someone has worked from home for a long time, so let's say they've done it for 6 months, it doesn't make them an expert at it. So we're going through this phase at the moment where people think they're quite expertise at working from home when they're not necessarily. So some folks do it really, really well, but you'll know yourself when it comes to the end of the day as your level of frustration with, did I achieve what I expected to, or am I feeling unfulfilled?
Yeah.
So what I think the first thing about working from home, to be effective at working from home, it's got to start with mindset. So I've got to be really locked in that I'm working from home. So for a lot of people, and particularly some of the younger people, they think it's really cool. They can work from home in their pajamas, they can work from home from their bed, and those sorts of things. It won't have long-term success. So I think that we've got to have some form of routine where we get up and we lock into this working mode. Here's the hours that I'm going to work. So that doesn't mean that you have to go and chain yourself to your desk from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day or anything like that. So I've got this mindset of working from home. One of my customers, what this particular lady does, she actually leaves home, goes at the start of the day, she goes for a walk around the block, comes back home, walks in through the front door. She's reinvented like going to the office. That just gets her locked in working from home. She does the same thing at the end of the day. She says, we've got to close our day at the finish of the day. So she'll leave the house, walk the block, come back in and say, right, I've finished now. Now I'm at home. Now I'll go and do the stuff that I normally do at home. So we start off with mindset. The second one that we've got to do is we've got to reduce the level of distractions, because around the home, there's distractions everywhere. I'll just put a load of washing on. I'll make myself a 3-course meal for lunch. I'll do the washing. There's all of those things like that. So get really specific with your schedule of what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. So I like the concept of working in sprints. So I'm working in, like, if I got a 30-minute sprint, I can do that and a bomb can go off. But sometimes how my work runs, I only get a 20-minute sprint or a 15-minute sprint or a 10-minute sprint, whatever the number is, but I just get locked and loaded in what I'm going to do during that time. And what I really need to be good at when I work from home is I need to be able to reduce the levels of procrastination. Because what we found is the levels of procrastination went through the roof, because we lose that sort of sounding board where we can just ask someone and we're unsure of what to do. And we'll often sit there and ponder it, or we'll put it off, and we're just not getting the productivity levels that we should. So when should we ask for help? When we don't know how to do something, it's as soon as we realize we need help. That's when we should be reaching out and asking for help rather than procrastinating. And the last one is that what organizations do, they need to have a place, some team protocols so that it's understood. So if I've got a question, where do I go to? What's the device I'm going to use? If we're having team meetings, do we have our cameras on or not our cameras on? Is there a place we can hang out if we're just feeling like we need a bit of contact and have a bit of fun? It's those types of things that we want to put in place so we can make this virtual environment feel like we've got support, but we can be really focused so we can get a lot done and remove all the travel time in going to and from an office.
Well, that's it for me. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share with everybody right now?
I think when it comes to working effectively, you've got to understand what you do well. So what's the level of detail you need? What are the systems you need? What I find with a lot of people is that they overwhelm themselves, and they overwhelm themselves with even basics like email, for instance. So one of the things that I've put in place, so I teach people how to use email and really focus around Microsoft Outlook, is that I've got a program that I've just recently launched. It's really to help you get control of your email. And it's called Outlook Mastery. And it's about hacks that save you 30 minutes a day. And I've got an introductory price of that at $97. And I think this thing is so fantastic. It's part of my executive program that I deliver to executives for $5,000. So this is only one module of it, but you get that for $97. So if you want to get control of your email, give it a shot, because I actually give a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you don't like it, then I'll just give you money back on it. But that might be helpful to some of your listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Appreciate your time. If you're here, I would give you some chocolate, because that's what I do. And yeah, I'm sure our listeners are going to find this super useful. If you could flick me across the links, etc., to the things that we've just mentioned, that'd be great. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you again.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
No problems. Good-o. You have a good afternoon.
You too. Take care.
Cheers. See ya.